Sometimes you are so busy building a future that you miss the moment your partner decides to destroy it. We are looking at a case where 20 years of loyalty were traded for a single weekend of cheap thrills, proving that even the strongest contracts cannot always buy integrity. Let's analyze the critical moment where a man must choose between total ruin or calculating the ultimate liquidation of his past. Viewer discretion is advised. Educational purpose only. You know that specific smell of North Florida right before a storm? It's heavy, thick with humidity and the scent of turning soil. That's the smell I loved. That's the smell of work, of honesty. But the smell inside my own house in the suburbs of Jacksonville was different. It smelled like lavender air freshener and cold indifference. I parked my Ford F-150 in the driveway, the engine ticking as it cooled down. My back was screaming. I'd spent 12 hours at the agro complex, dealing with irrigation blowouts and logistics, trying to keep things running while the sun beat down on us. My hands were stained dark, the kind of grime that does not scrub out. It just becomes part of your skin. I looked at my hands on the steering wheel for a second. They were rough, calloused maps of my life. Then I looked at the house. It was a 2-story beige box in a neighborhood where the HOA measured your grass height with a ruler. I hated it. I hated the perfectly paved sidewalks and the neighbors who only waved if they wanted something. But I was here for Betty. I walked in through the garage, kicking off my muddy boots by the door out of habit. "Betty," I called out. Silence. Just the hum of the AC unit. I walked into the living room and stopped. It looked like a campaign headquarters exploded. There were stacks of flyers on the coffee table, posters rolled up on the sofa, and boxes of Save the Wetlands t-shirts blocking the TV. And there was Betty, sitting in the middle of it all, furiously typing on her MacBook. She did not even look up. "Hey," I said, leaning against the doorframe. "I'm home." Tough day at the complex. One of the pumps blew, flooded the south sector. "Oh, that's nice, Chris," she mumbled, her eyes glued to the screen. "Listen, do not touch that stack on the left. Those are sorted by zip code." I let out a breath I did not know I was holding. "Hungry? I was thinking of throwing some steaks on the grill." She finally looked up, but she was not looking at me. She was looking through me, like I was a piece of furniture that was slightly in the way. "I ate a salad an hour ago, and I do not have time for a sit-down dinner. I have to finish this speech for the conference in the Keys tomorrow. Just microwave something, okay?" She turned back to her screen. "Oh, and can you take the trash out? It smells like outside." That was it. That was our marriage after nearly 20 years. I was the guy who paid the mortgage and took out the trash, and she was the saint saving the world, one fundraiser at a time. I walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge, and stared at the plastic containers. I was not hungry anymore. The next morning was a blur of zippers and slamming car doors. Betty was in activist mode. She wore that sharp blazer I paid for, looking professional, driven, and completely detached from the life we built. "I'll be back Sunday night," she said, checking her reflection in the hallway mirror. She did not kiss me. She just patted my arm, like you'd pat a loyal dog. "Try not to track mud everywhere, okay, Chris?" "Drive safe," I said. "Call me when you get to the hotel." Yeah, she waved a hand, already dialing someone on her iPhone. She was gone before I could even finish my coffee. I found out later, much later, what that weekend really looked like. While I was at home, fixing a leaking faucet and watching a football game alone in a silent house, Betty was not saving the wetlands. She was at a resort in the Florida Keys, the kind of place that charges $20 for a cocktail. She called her friend, Sarah, from the balcony. I can almost hear her voice, that specific tone she used when she was complaining about me. "God, Sarah, I just needed to breathe," she probably said, holding a glass of white wine. "Chris is just so heavy. He smells like fertilizer and sweat. He's so boring, you know? I need fire. I need to feel alive again." And that's when she went to the bar. The Blue Marlin. That's where she met Mike. He was not a bad guy intrinsically, just a kid, maybe 26, 27, surfer hair, tan, working part-time, and living life without a single care. He was everything I was not. He did not have a mortgage. He did not have employees depending on him. He was just free. The atmosphere down there is dangerous if you're looking for trouble. The humid air, the steel drums playing somewhere in the distance, the way the alcohol hits you harder in the heat. Betty sat at the bar, feeling the years slip off her shoulders. She was not the 40-year-old wife of a farm manager. She was Betty, the woman who could change the world. Mike slid onto the stool next to her. He did not talk about soil pH levels or HOA fines. He talked about waves, about the best tequila, about how her eyes looked in the patio lights. For Betty, it was not a calculated decision. It was a slip. A momentary lapse of reason fueled by 3 margaritas and a desperate need to be someone else. She wanted the fire she told her friend about. She invited him back to her room. I was not there, but I know the stakes. 20 years of building a life. The house, the savings, the history. She gambled it all for a night of feeling young with a guy who probably would not remember her last name in a week. She let him into her space, into our marriage, effectively burning down everything we stood for. And she did it without a second thought for the man waiting back in Jacksonville. The week Betty returned, the air in the house changed. It got colder. She walked in Sunday night, tossed her bag in the laundry room, and went straight to the shower. No, "I missed you," no details about the conference, just a wall of ice. "How was it?" I asked later, as she sat on the couch with a glass of wine, scrolling through her iPad. "Exhausting," she clipped. "So much networking. I saved the organization thousands in venue fees for next year." "That's great, Bets. I'm tired, Chris. I'm going to bed." That was the routine. For 5 days, we lived like roommates who politely tolerated each other. She was buried in her projects, and I buried myself in work. I felt a knot in my stomach, that gut instinct you get when a storm is brewing on the horizon, but you can't not see the clouds yet. Then came Saturday, the catalyst. It was a scorcher. I was out front, pushing the mower across the perfectly manicured St. Augustine grass. The sun was hammering down on my neck, sweat dripping off my nose. I liked the noise of the engine. It drowned out the silence inside the house. I turned the mower around near the sidewalk and saw a vehicle slowing down. It was a beat-up Jeep Wrangler, no top, caked in sand, with a surfboard rack on the back. It looked completely out of place in our neighborhood of polished SUVs and sedans. The Jeep pulled up right in front of my driveway. The engine sputtered and died. I killed the mower. The silence was sudden and heavy. A guy hopped out. Board shorts, flip-flops, tank top. He looked like he just walked out of a PacSun catalog. He squinted at the house numbers, then at me. "Yo, excuse me, sir," he called out, jogging up the driveway. I wiped my forehead with the back of my glove. "Can I help you?" He stopped a few feet away, grinning like we were old pals. "Yeah, hope I'm not intruding. Is Betty around?" The name hit me like a physical blow. I froze. "Betty?" "Yeah, Betty. Short blonde hair, super intense, talks fast. He pulled a phone out of his pocket. Look, man, this is kind of awkward, but she left some stuff in my room at the resort. I was driving up to Savannah to catch some waves and realized I was passing through Jacksonville. Figured I'd savor the shipping cost. My blood ran cold. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. I looked at this kid, this child, standing on my driveway. What stuff? My voice was low, dangerous, but he did not notice. He was too busy scrolling through his phone. Her portable charger, and these. He dug into his pocket and pulled out a pair of earrings, diamond studs, the ones I bought her for our 10th anniversary. The ones she told me she misplaced in her luggage on Tuesday. Oh, he laughed, showing me his screen. And she wanted me to send her this pic we took, but I guess she gave me the wrong number or something. It bounced back. He turned the screen toward me. It was a selfie, taken in a mirror. Betty, wearing a hotel robe that was falling off her shoulder, laughing, with this kid's arm wrapped around her waist. The background was undeniably a hotel room. The timestamp was last Thursday, 2 a.m. We had a crazy night at the Blue Marlin, the kid said, totally oblivious to the fact that he was holding a grenade. She was fire, man. Said she needed a break from her boring life. Anyway, is she home? I stared at the photo. I stared at the earrings in his hand. In that moment, I could have snapped. I could have dragged him onto the lawn and beaten him within an inch of his life. But I'm a farmer. We do not act on impulse. We assess the damage, and then we deal with the problem at the root. I took a deep breath, and the anger crystallized into something sharp and cold, like ice. She's not home, I lied. My voice was steady, eerily steady. But I'm her husband. The kid's smile vanished. The color drained from his face so fast, he looked like a ghost. Oh, dude, I did not know. She said she was single, I suggested. Complicated. She said it was complicated. He took a step back, looking at the earrings in his hand like they were burning him. Look, man, I do not want no trouble. I just wanted to return her stuff. Give me the earrings, I said. He dropped them into my gloved hand. And the charger. He handed that over, too. Now, I said, stepping closer, get in your Jeep, drive away, and forget you were ever here. Yes, sir, absolutely. Sorry, man, seriously. He scrambled back to his Jeep, fumbled with the keys, and peeled out of the neighborhood, leaving a cloud of exhaust. I stood there on the driveway, clutching the diamond earrings. The metal was hot from the sun. I walked into the house. The cool air hit me, but I did not feel it. I walked straight to my office, locked the door, and opened the floor safe. Inside was a leather folder, the prenuptial agreement. We signed it years ago, at my father's insistence, back when the farm was expanding and we were taking on investors. Betty had laughed about it then, saying it was just a formality. I flipped to Section 4, Clause 2, the Infidelity Clause. In the event of proven adultery, the offending party forfeits all claims to jointly held real estate acquired during the marriage, including the primary residence. I had the earrings. I had the charger. And thanks to my security cameras outside, I had 4K video footage of her lover standing in our driveway, admitting everything, holding the evidence. I did not yell. I did not throw things. I sat there in the silence, listening to Betty humming in the kitchen upstairs, completely unaware that she had just lost everything. The next 3 days were a masterclass in acting. I played the part of the tired, dull husband perfectly. I let her talk down to me. I let her roll her eyes when I watched the Weather Channel. Inside, I was counting down the hours. On Wednesday morning, Betty packed her bags again. "Another protest?" I asked, sipping my coffee. "It's a sit-in near the Capitol," she said, checking her phone. "Important stuff, Chris. You would not understand. I'll be back Friday evening." "Have fun saving the world," I said. As soon as her taillights disappeared around the corner, I was on the phone. "Dave? It's Chris." "Yeah, I'm ready to sell. Today." Dave was my oldest friend and the sharpest realtor in Duval County. He knew I'd been unhappy in the suburbs, but he was shocked by the urgency. "Today? Chris, the market is good, but I do not want a listing, Dave. I want an investor. Cash offer, as is. I want to close in 24 hours. "You'll take a hit on the price," Dave warned. "I do not care about the price. I care about the speed. Get it done." By noon, 3 investors had walked through the house. The place was pristine. Betty made sure of that. By 4 p.m., I accepted a cash offer from a holding company. We signed the papers digitally. The money hit my account the next morning. The house was no longer ours. It was not even mine. It belonged to a faceless corporation. Thursday was moving day. I did not hire movers. I did not need to. I called a few of the guys from the farm with a flatbed truck. We moved fast. My stuff, my tools, my clothes, my grandfather's armchair, the few things that actually had soul, went onto the truck. Then came Betty's stuff. I did not destroy it. I was not a monster. I hired a frantic moving crew to pack her entire life, her clothes, her awards, her endless boxes of pamphlets, her furniture, and drive it to a generic you-store-it facility on the outskirts of town. I paid for 1 month of storage. By Friday afternoon, the house was empty. It echoed. The beige walls looked even more soulless without the furniture. I left the keys on the kitchen counter, along with a large manila envelope. Inside were the divorce papers, served via mail, copies of the evidence, and the receipt for the storage unit with the access code. I walked out, locked the door, and got into my truck. I did not look back. I drove 30 miles west, away from the manicured lawns and the HOA rules. I turned onto a dirt road that kicked up dust clouds behind me. The air changed. It started to smell like earth, pine, and freedom. I pulled up to the old foreman's cottage on the edge of the agro-complex land. It was small, wooden, and needed a coat of paint. But it had a porch that looked out over the fields. It was mine. I sat on the porch steps as the sun began to set, drinking a cold beer. It was quiet. Real quiet. Then, around 7 p.m., my phone rang. Betty. I let it ring 3 times before picking up. "Chris?" Her voice was high, panicked, high-pitched screeching that hurt my ear. "Chris, what the hell is going on? My key does not work, and there are people inside. Strangers! They say they own the house!" I took a sip of beer, watching the fireflies start to dance over the soy fields. "They do own it, Betty. They bought it yesterday." "What? You cannot... Are you insane? Where are my things? Where am I supposed to sleep?" "Check your email," I said calmly, "and check the mailbox at your mom's house. My lawyer sent everything over." "Lawyer? Chris, stop this. I'm tired. I just drove 4 hours. Open the door." "I'm not there, Betty. I do not live there anymore. And neither do you." "What are you talking about?" She was hyperventilating now. "Mike stopped by," I said. Silence. Dead silence on the other end of the line. He returned your earrings, I continued, my voice flat. And he told me all about the blue marlin. Clause 4.2, Betty. You cheated. You lost the house. It's in the contract. Chris, wait, she stammered, her voice trembling. It did not mean anything. It was one night. You cannot just sell our home. It was not a home, I said. It was just a building where you kept your stuff while you looked for excitement. Well, now you have plenty of excitement. I hung up. Then I turned off the phone. Saturday morning on the farm is the best time of the week. The mist hangs low over the crops, and the world feels new. I was in the machine shed, greasing the axles of the big harvester. Grease on my hands, sweat on my brow. I felt cleaner than I had in years. I heard a car crunching on the graveled driveway. I did not have to look to know who it was. She found me. It was not hard. She knew where the farm was, even if she hated visiting it. I wiped my hands on a shop rag and walked out into the sunlight. Betty was standing by her car. She looked wrecked. The powerful activist facade was gone. No makeup, red puffy eyes, hair messy. She was wearing yesterday's clothes. She looked small. She looked at me, and then at the small, rugged cottage behind me. She saw the peace I had here, and she realized she was not part of it. Chris, she choked out. She took a step forward, her hands shaking. Chris, please, we need to talk. I stopped 10 feet away. I did not cross the distance. We talked yesterday. That was not talking. That was you destroying my life. She started to cry, real ugly tears. I went to the storage unit. My whole life is in a tin box, Chris. How could you do that? You did it, I said. You made the choice when you invited that kid into your room. It was a mistake, she screamed, stepping closer. I was stressed. I was drunk. It did not mean anything. I love you. We've been married for 20 years. Does not that count for anything? You're my husband. You're supposed to be the hero. The strong one who forgives. She fell to her knees in the dirt. The expensive pants she wore were instantly stained with the red clay she despised. I can fix this. We can fix this. I'll change. I'll stop traveling. Just do not throw me away. Do not leave me with nothing. I looked down at her. I remembered the years of being ignored. The years of feeling like an accessory to her life. I remembered the look on Mike's face when he showed me that photo. I felt a twinge of pity, sure. But it was the kind of pity you feel for an animal that got itself stuck in a trap it set for someone else. I walked over to the fence and looked out at the rows of crops stretching to the horizon. Strong, healthy, green. You know the first rule of farming, Betty? I asked, not looking at her. She looked up, confused, mascara running down her cheeks. What? I turned to her, wiping the last bit of grease from my thumb. I only water what bears fruit, I said quietly. Weeds, I pull them out by the root, and I burn them. She stared at me, mouth open, realizing finally that there was no negotiation. The boring farmer she had dismissed for years was made of stone, and she had just broken herself against him. Go home, Betty, I said, turning my back and walking toward the tractor. Wait for the court date. I climbed into the cab, fired up the diesel engine, and the roar drowned out her sobbing. I put the tractor in gear and drove into the field, leaving her alone in the dust of the life she destroyed. The protagonist's biggest mistake was not the hard work he did, but tolerating the cold indifference in his home long before the actual betrayal occurred. Here are the takeaways. 1. Never ignore the roommate phase. When respect leaves the relationship, loyalty is usually the next thing to go. 2. Always protect your assets. Love is an emotion, but marriage is a legal contract that requires insurance against a breach of trust. Write in the comments, would you have sold the house or given her a second chance? Subscribe for more honest case studies.